After Star Wars Celebration 2025 in Japan, fans are asking what in the world are they thinking? In fact, it may be so bad that Lucasfilm is blinking, holding back the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer in fear of a Snow White style online backlash. Hello, folks, and welcome back. It is Monday, the start of a great new week for each and every one of you out there. And as we get ready to start, all we ask is that you click the like button. Lauren Connor is here to start the week the right way. Lauren, welcome back to the channel, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Lauren, I've got a theory, and it's a Star Wars theory. Get it? Take a look at this, folks. From Star Wars Theory, the YouTube channel, Vader Episode 2 official teaser trailer. It has 32,000 likes, 181 dislikes. That's a lot of likes. That's a great ratio. Not only that, but it has over 200,000 views at the time of this recording. In fact, it has 244,000, and Star Wars Theory very cleverly putting this out at the same time as Star Wars Celebration. Now, Lauren, at the same time that we've had this trailer come out, we've also not had a trailer come out, and that trailer that we're missing is The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, we've seen Starfighter, a little bit of it in terms of them coming out and make the announcement, but unless you were at Star Wars Celebration, you will not be seeing The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer unless you've seen it leaked, which you and I have, and we have thoughts on it. But Lauren, the first thought I have is that I think they're scared. I think they're legitimately scared of putting it out there and getting a Snow White style response. I think they're afraid that it would amplify Star Wars Theory. I think they're afraid that compared to Vader Episode 2, a fanfic film made by a Star Wars YouTube channel, that Mandalorian and Grogu will look badly. Lauren, you and I have both watched it. We've seen the entire thing. We've got thoughts on it. But before we even dive into our thoughts on the trailer, what do you think that maybe, just maybe, Lucasfilm is scared of Star Wars Theory? Is this why they're trying to avoid a comparison? Maybe. I don't know. What say you, sir?
No, I don't think so. This is something that they have done at every Star Wars Celebration. They always have some exclusive footage that they want to show on the show floor. It's usually not anything that gives away plot. It's just sort of a hype reel, and that's exactly what this is. Usually in these things, they might have some not color-corrected footage or maybe some temporary VFX shots. That doesn't appear to be the case in this reel, but it will likely be released later on, maybe in a month or two as a teaser, and then later on you'll get a full-bore trailer that will give you some story beats and details. So I don't think this is intended to be anything much more than just a thing to get hype built up for those people who showed up at Celebration.
Now, I would love, folks, I would love to put lots of stuff up on the screen. However, I think we would get in trouble if we did. I will put this up on the screen, though, Lauren. I'm willing to do this. This is from Master of the TDS, and this is a shot from Star Wars Celebration. Again, we don't own the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. We don't have the rights to it, and for whatever reason, Disney they're electing that they don't want you to see this yet. But this is Rod of the Hutt. And this will be one of the main characters in the Mandalorian and Grogu, and Master of the TDS says, seeing a jacked Hutt is just bizarre. Yes, he's ripped. He's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the Hutt family. He was formerly known as Stinky. Lauren, here's why I am concerned greatly for Star Wars, and I think it may be on life support, and, well, the life is draining from it before our very eyes. Lauren, I was expecting the Mandalorian and Grogu under Jon Favreau, even with the negative influence I think that is happening under Dave Filoni. I was expecting it to have grand scale. I was expecting it to be something that, brought Star Wars fans back and said, hey, we've been gone for 7-8 years. Here's something worth going back to the theater to see. Here's something on par with A New Hope. Here's something on par with The Empire Strikes Back. Instead, they've got a ripped Stinky. Literally, this is his nickname is Stinky from the cartoons. They have a buff, ripped Stinky with Grogu eating popcorn. Lauren, come on. Can they not do better than this?
All right. So you tagged me about this on Twitter yesterday. Did you see my responses to you on that?
It's Easter, Lauren. I didn't have a chance to see what you. I was too busy dealing with rotten, smelly Easter eggs besides stinky huts.
All right, so I have to laugh about this a little bit because this actually doesn't bother me. Jacked huts are not a new thing, believe it or not. In the old EU, there was a jacked hut called Beldorian the Hut in the novel Planet of Twilight that Leia ended up fighting. And in the far distant past of both in universe and in the real world, in the Han Solo trilogy by Brian Daley, they kind of revealed some details about the ancient huts. And the ancient huts used to be quite a bit more fit, a lot more militaristic. And part of that was because they were involved in a campaign against somebody called Zim the Despot, who they eventually overthrew. But in that time, they were far more militaristic. And so the idea of fit huts is not really a new idea, and it doesn't bother me all that much.
But
Also,
it's stinky, Lauren. Of all the characters they could have elected to put in this movie, they chose one that's nicknamed Stinky, and it's Dave Filoni's stinky character.
yes, but in universe, 30 years have passed. If you looked at Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was a toddler, he looked quite different when he was about 30 years old. So that part doesn't bother me so much. And just for the shock and humor of it, I do find it kind of funny. I was talking to my parents about this very thing this afternoon when they came to visit. And my dad looked at me and he said, "But huts are just like slugs, right?" And I said, "Yeah, but this one's got abs." And he said the idea of a slug with abs kind of disturbed him. And I said, "Yeah, but that's actually what kind of makes it funny." So that kind of stuff, that doesn't bother me so much, especially because there is precedent for it before. I get that it's kind of it's a little weird. It's going to take a while maybe to wrap your head around, but if they handled it properly, let's say in that gladiatorial scene that he's got a really good gladiatorial fight, that's fun and surprising. So that doesn't bother me. If they execute it poorly, then it will.
All right, Lauren, so let's talk about the trailer because Star Wars is down to just a few more chances, and I really do mean that. They announced that.
I'm not sure they actually have a few more chances. I think they may have already blown past them, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'll be honest. So Dave Filoni announces that as soon as he ends Star Wars Celebration, which was in Japan last week, so he's at it now. It's Monday. He's there. Apparently, he's starting on Ahsoka Season 2, which I don't know about you, but I can wait. I can wait a long time before we have to suffer through that again. Season 1 was a huge disappointment. They've also got this Starfighter thing that they've announced, which will be Ryan Gosling and Sean Levy, and fine. We'll come back to that in a minute, Lauren. We'll come back to that. The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. I think that it's not aiming to be a big enough thing. I think it feels like a side quest, having seen the trailer. Folks, again, we apologize we can't play it. Lauren, you've watched the trailer. As a Star Wars guru, walk me through what is in the trailer and what might give you hope or might cause you to say nope when it comes to this film.
Well, the trailer opens up with you see the interior of a space that is going into lockdown. There are snowtroopers that are in this area, and you kind of see the camera moving forward towards some doors, which then violently erupt with a Mandalorian crashing through them and gunning down everybody in this space. And as he moves forward through it, after he's taken out all of the threats, you see the camera moving backwards until it comes through a doorway which closes. And for those who are familiar with the interior of Star Wars architecture, this is an AT-AT walker. And you now have the two AT-AT pilots in the front, plus a commander, probably a general of some kind, looking very nervous about the fact that they have a Mandalorian trapped in the rear area and they're stuck in the front. And then the whole thing blows up, falls over the side of a cliff, and then you hear the voiceover of Sigourney Weaver saying, "Messy." And they have a brief conversation. There's several different scenes of both the Mandalorian and Grogu doing various things. You see some Anzellans from Rise of Skywalker. You see a bit of them riding what looks a bit like an AT-PT from Revenge of the Sith in a snowy environment. And there's some voiceover of the Mandalorian saying, "I am Din Djarin, and this is Grogu. And then you see Grogu in various scenes. You see him swimming, which was kind of fun to see. And then he is using the Force against an MSE droid, which he raises up with the Force and crushes, dodges a wheel as it rolls past, and then makes a cute little sound. And then you get the title card, and then the ending shot of Rod of the Hutt posing in the gladiatorial arena as you described. So that's basically the trailer. It's not giving away much, but it is showing some action scenes and things to get you hyped.
And folks, just as a reminder, because you're out there saying, show it to us, don't tell us about it. Folks, we can't. Take a look at that. It says, at CC-1004, agree on X. And on if you can't get something out there on X, you really can't get something out there. It says, The Mandalorian Grogu full leak trailer, hashtag The Mandalorian Grogu, and down below you'll see this media has been disabled in response to a report by the copyright owner. Well, who owns the copyright? Disney. So Disney doesn't want you to see their trailer. We don't know why. I think it's Star Wars theory. Lauren says otherwise. I still say that they don't want to have Star Wars theory, a fan YouTube channel, have a positive ratio and then a negative ratio like Snow White land on poor Grogu's head. I don't know, Lauren. Do you think that this would have received a backlash online, or do you think it would have been positive? Having seen it, well, I mean, what do you think the response would have been if it, and it will eventually? Maybe they'll turn the comments off. I don't know, but how do you think people are going to respond to this when and if it does land on YouTube?
I think it's difficult to know, because it's like I can argue this trailer in two different ways. One of the things that I kind of disagree with you in the sense that you were saying that you think that it's too small, and I would argue it's not supposed to be mainline Star Wars. These are the B characters, and I think that if you find some B characters that hit, they can become A characters. But this isn't supposed to be the A story. You know, that's kind of why I think Ahsoka is making a terrible mistake, in that Dave Filoni said this weekend that he views that Grand Admiral Thrawn's main enemy is Hera Syndulla. That is freaking nonsense. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And
Hold on, Lauren. Explain why, though, because I think we can tease out some real truths about what's going wrong at Star Wars. Why is that such a bonkers bananas kind of statement from somebody who should know better?
Because Hera is a B character, and she's a character that he created, and he tends to fetishize these characters and put them in places where they don't belong. Hera is a general in the Alliance, and that's fine, but she's not known as being a brilliant strategist. And if you're going to say that she's going to be the one to defeat Thrawn, the only characters that can defeat Thrawn have got to be the A-Team. And Hera, much as I love her and the Rebels crew, are not the A-Team. So all you do by pitting them against Thrawn is you reduce Thrawn, and that's the last thing that you want. It's a total power imbalance, and the only way that it works is if you make Thrawn stupider, which they already did in the first season. So I think that's a total mistake. I think, in a sense, that's kind of the mistake you're making in judging this, because these are not meant to be the A-Team. I think that they could have been elevated to the A-Team had they not botched season 3. Now, the thing that I do like about this trailer is I think it got the action right. And I think that it appeared to me, it's kind of hard to tell because the footage was grainy, but it looks to me like this is better than what we've seen on the volume. It felt to me like they were on physical sets, and I felt that that translated into some of the action. I also felt like, I don't know if it was Brandon or Lateef doing the stunts there for Mando, but it looked to me like they were having some fun, showing some moves that they hadn't shown before. I felt like it was a little more kinetic than what I expected, and that makes me wonder maybe if they've upgraded the armor a little bit, if it's maybe easier to move in. However, there's no plot details. There's nothing to judge this on. All I can judge it on is, how did it look for what I saw? What did the action look like? And for me, that was fine. There's also a little personal detail that I would put in there that I approved of just because I like it, and that is, these are the Clone Wars era AT-ATs. These are not the Empire Strikes Back era AT-ATs. I have kind of a soft spot for the Rebels and Clone War era AT-ATs for some reason, so that did make me happy. But that's one of those things that is, again, a member berry trick, you know. And so while I like it, I can't allow that to make me give it a judgment. You know, the reason that I like it is because it's based on the original Ralph McQuarrie artwork, and I like it when they do that.
Let me jump in and make an analogy, Lauren. You were talking about how, if you're going to have A-tier villains, they need to have A-tier heroes who take them on, right? And that's because you bring out the very best characters you have, the most iconic, those who will be merchandisable and all of that. Okay. It's like if somebody came to us and said, hey, in the new DCEU, we're going to have the Joker, and he's going to be defeated, but it's not going to be by Batman. No, it's going to be Alfred. Alfred is going to take down the Joker. And it's like, no. We love Alfred. Alfred doesn't destroy the Joker. That's the wrong character to do that. And so you're saying with Hera, same thing. I totally get that. It points me in the direction of saying that Dave Filoni just doesn't get it. Like, he just doesn't get it at all. Lauren, on the other hand, though, Jon Favreau came out and said that Dave Filoni is his mentor. Did you have any thoughts on that? The fact that Dave Filoni would come out and say that this, and we've actually got the story, folks. I'll show it to you. I hadn't anticipated this, but it's on That Part Place. Go read it. Check it out. Acclaimed director Jon Favreau calls Dave Filoni his mentor at Star Wars Celebration 2025. And I just, when I hear that Dave Filoni is Jon Favreau's mentor, I say, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Like, every red light is flashing at this point. And it makes me more nervous about The Mandalorian and Grogu, not less. Definitely not less.
Well, it's a statement without a qualification. His mentor at what? And I think that's the important question. It's like, John's been doing this for a very long time, and he doesn't need a mentor when it comes to storytelling or filmmaking. I think that John respects the fact that Dave, he's known internally as a lore guy, but he's also a guy that has damaged lore an awful lot, and a lot of it has to do with his inability to separate what he has created from what others have created, and he will elevate his stuff above its station. And that is the real danger that Dave presents. There are times when Dave has produced some things that I really like. There's times when I think that he is the dumbest guy in a cowboy hat I've ever seen. So, it just depends on what he's doing in what particular day. Dave is a guy who needs oversight. He's not the guy who should be giving oversight.
So we've got the Mandalorian Grogu movie, and after seeing the trailer, I'm less enthusiastic about it. And that's really something. I don't know. Are you less or more? Where are you at, Lauren?
There's no way to tell from this. It's like, I liked the action that I saw, but I still remember the bitter taste of season 3 of The Mandalorian, and it's going to be really hard to claw back from that.
Yeah, and I'd rather not spend $20 to $30 to $40 to go to a theater to watch season 3 play out before me again.
Yeah, the problem with this is that where has the character got to go now? Any of the interesting story threads that they had, they terminated. And I think that puts it in a really dangerous position, because it's like, they had all kinds of interesting things they could have done with this character and with the other characters. And instead, they hamstrung him. And I think that is, if they've got a good hook, if they found a hook, then maybe, but it better be a really good hook that we don't see coming.
Well, I think I think Luke Skywalker is going to be in it. But I'll tell you this: when Luke Skywalker comes into the movie, if that happens, when he does so, he has to be the hero. And this nonsense about, we're going to bring in Luke, but Luke is going to be the guy who, he's the jilted girlfriend that Grogu doesn't want to hang out with. Sorry, I'm not going to date you in the Jedis. I'm going to hang out with my best bro, my best pal, Big Daddy Mando. Like, I'm sorry, that can't be the end of Luke in this story. Like, it's the ultimate climax killer.
It's not the appropriate place for Luke. This is the same problem that we were talking about with the A tier and the B tier. Where Luke's appropriate place was as the mentor for Grogu, and Grogu needed to go away for a while so that you could see how these characters reacted when separated from each other. That leads to character growth. The problem with bringing Luke in now is that you're right. He steals the plot. He steals the thread, and that's not what you want, because the name of the movie is The Mandalorian and Grogu. The other problem with it is that we know that the Starfighter movie that they are producing is taking place after the sequel trilogy, which means they're still not abandoning the sequel trilogy, which means this is still sequel trilogy Luke. It doesn't work. So if you're going to do that, don't even bother. If that's what you're planning to do, Luke should not be in this.
So let's go into the Star Wars 3 strikes then, Lauren. That's what I'm going to call this. Folks, going forward, here are the Star Wars 3 strikes. Mandalorian and Grogu. They need to hit a solid double with this, at least. This thing has got to make $500 million. They've got Ahsoka Season 2. Now, we don't know when that's coming out, but that's strike 2. And I think that's going to be a swing and a whiff because I don't know how you redeem Ahsoka Season 1. Like, I don't know how you make it better now. It's so terrible. And then they've got the third strike, which is Starfighter. And again, that one, it depends on how the Mandalorian and Grogu does. If Mando does fine, the pressure's off of Starfighter. Can do whatever it wants to do. It's off on its own. Who cares? If Mando and Grogu fail, and especially if Ahsoka Season 2 is also a stinker, everything will be riding on Starfighter. And if you get 3 strikes, I think Star Wars goes dormant for a while because I think it will be at the point even where someone like Bob Iger or whoever his successor is going to have to say, we can't keep damaging this. Like we're past the point of critical now where people loathe what we're doing.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you here. It's like if you've taken a baseball bat to a Ferrari and you've filled it with dents, I'm not sure you're really going to notice another one. But besides that,
it's got to be drivable though at some point in the future, Lord. Like there's still a chance we can still boost this thing off.
well, look, let's talk about Ahsoka because we were talking about this in the A-tier villains and the A-tier heroes a little while ago. Nobody wanted to see Thrawn dealing with Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine. That wasn't what people wanted. People wanted to see Thrawn with Master Sabaoth, and people wanted to see Luke and Leia and Han and Talon Karrde and Mara Jade and all of those people having that adventure. That's all we've asked for, honestly, for about 33 years now. You know, so that's what people wanted, and they refused to give it to us, and instead they elevated Dave's pet characters to have him face off and made Thrawn look like an idiot. Also affiliated with a Night Sister spinoff for some reason. That could have worked maybe if done properly, but it would be tough. But when you make Thrawn look like an idiot and he's dealing with extremely minor threats and really, honestly, in a way, not dealing with them at all. You know, he had multiple chances to kill them and instead just sort of flew off and ignored them. That's not something a master strategist would do. So you're not giving the audience what you want. You're just making the characters that they love look small and idiotic, and that is extremely damaging to a brand. The curveball I'm going to throw you, though, is that you forgot to mention one thing, and that's Andor Season 2. And I know the argument that everybody makes is that nobody watched that show. I think that show has gained a lot more recognition after it aired. And I think that it is a more adult, and that turns some people off. That's why some people didn't like it, is that it's a more adult, gritty take on it. The reason that I like it is that it returns menace to the Empire, and the villains in that show are deadly competent. And I think that makes them a lot scarier because they're not buffoonish. They're not dumb. They are people that believe in their cause and are willing to execute it knowing that what they're doing is horrific. And they will exploit mistakes that the heroes make, and the heroes will suffer and die for it. That causes tension, and it makes you really hate the enemy. And it makes what you have to do to survive and defeat that enemy justifiable. That's the narrative tension you want. And that's something that Disney has been incapable of doing because all of their villains have to be understandable. It's like, no, they really shouldn't be. You could see them as awful humans. That's the worst kind of villain that you can have, is somebody that you see that they're human. You see that they have a rationality, but it's a warped rationality. You see they can't be reasoned with, and that means that you have to fight them. And that's a difficult thing to come to. Where people can, they tend to seek consensus, or at least a way of mending a break. When it comes to a point when you can't do that, that's where conflict occurs, and that is stressful, and that's where dramatic tension lies.
Well, I'll throw the curveball back at you. I think that if Andor Season 1 had come out as one of the first Disney Plus shows, and it landed before, let's say, The Last Jedi. Now that I know that chronologically that's impossible, but let's play it that way for just a minute. If Andor had come out after what's the name of the movie? Rogue One.
Rogue One.
Yeah, if it came out after Rogue One, almost said Rogue Squadron because we've been talking Starfighter, and I tend to think that's just Patty Jenkins' movie taken by a dude. Another topic for another day. But if Rogue One had come out, and then directly after that Andor comes out, maybe it's on something that's not Disney Plus. I don't know. But if that had happened, I think it would be seen as a masterpiece. The problem is that it came out after what had happened with the sequel trilogy and after what we watched happen with the Book of Boba Fett. And because of that, you can't, once you have absolutely stripped away the excitement from a franchise, you can't then throw out there a very low tier character like what we're seeing with Diego Luna's character. You can't throw that out and get people excited anymore because they're like, no. You took my favorite toy and beat the crap out of it. I don't want to play with your other toy that you're saying is the substitute. I don't care how good it is. You beat up my favorite stuff.
Yeah, and I understand that argument. There's also the argument that there's a lot of Star Wars fans that have no interest in a Star Wars show without Jedi. There are some fans that just want to see lightsabers and Jedi and Sith, and I understand that as well. Some people don't like the grittier tone. I also get that. And I'm not saying that Andor Season 2 is necessarily going to be a win. I think we're going to have to wait and see what they do with it. I've heard some things that do cause me some concern. But I think it has the best chance of being something that will be, if not adored, at least respected in the future. And I think that a lot of the other stuff that Disney has produced simply isn't going to have that.
All right. Well, here's a question for you as we get ready to wrap up, Lauren. When it comes to Starfighter, does it even matter?
No, I don't think so. Now, I say that saying somebody that thinks that Ryan Gosling in a Star Wars movie could actually be interesting, depending on what kind of a character he plays. If he plays it rogue charming, I think that could be fun. But the problem is, this is post-sequels. That immediately kills it. I have no interest in seeing it. I don't care what it is. There's nothing they can do that will make me accept it, because it's still going to be in the sequel continuity. And I think that a lot of the fan base is going to feel the same way.
Folks, we'll let you know if we hear anything else about Daisy Ridley and the Rey movie. It's still in development. We'll let you know about Taika Waititi. It's still in development. We'll let you know about all those things, but I'll tell you this. After Star Wars Celebration, I'm more worried about Star Wars than I was before Star Wars Celebration, because I don't see the big thing that they've been dormant for all this time for. I don't see the thing that's like, here's what's going to bring back the fans, and they desperately need the fans.
Can I raise one more point before we
go? Go for it, Lauren. What do you have?
There is the Maul animated show that they're going to do. And I think this is sort of a Hail Mary by Lucasfilm, because what they're showing is the criminal organization that Darth Maul put together before his death. But they also seem to be showing that he's training an apprentice that looks very much like Darth Talon. This was the idea that George Lucas had for his sequel drafts. And I think they're going to try to claim that this is their adaptation of it. I think that's pretty much going to be a lie, but I think that's what they're going to try to ride on. And depending on how that's executed, I don't know which way the fans are going to take that. That, I think, is a way that they're going to try and shield themselves. And I think that may be a more interesting dramatic story when it comes to how does the fan base receive this when it's actually released.
Lauren, help me remember. This has been years ago. Was Darth Talon the villain character that was bandied about and was supposed to come out in one? I want to say it was in The Mandalorian, but it was ruled is this the female character that?
It is a female character, but Darth Talon's origin was in a comic book series called Legacy, and it took place far after Return of the Jedi, and it followed Luke Skywalker's grandson, I think it was, Cade Skywalker. Darth Talon was a very sexy red Twi'lek.
Yes.
Yeah.
because it was rejected for the design, is what I remember. If I remember this correct, Lauren, I was trying to jog your memory too, because I think years and years ago, you and I covered this, that Darth Talon was on the books, and
she was not there for the Mandalorian. There's a complicated story with this. Was that Lucas really liked the design of the Darth Talon character, and he wanted to put Darth Talon and
Kathy.
Yes. And Darth Talon and Darth Maul together. He really wanted these two characters together. And people tried to argue against it because continuity-wise, the numbers don't add up. Darth Talon's 100 years later, but Lucas really liked it. And so he sort of forced it on. It was a game developer company. They were making a Darth Maul game, and he kind of imposed on them, well, you have to pair these two characters up. And they were also kind of trying to argue against it, but they never were able to convince him not to, so they reluctantly started to put the game design together. But everything fell through. The game was never produced. But Lucas kind of kept this idea in his head, and that was part of what was going to be in his sequel drafts. So I think this may be them trying to run a little bit of cover to say, see, we're sort of kind of producing what he had in his draft treatments, except not, because it's not the sequels. It's taking place in a different time frame. It's probably only involving these characters and not all the others, because the time frame would be wrong, So I'm kind of curious to see which way that goes.
I'm just telling you now, I could be mistaken. This is a long time ago. I'm pretty sure we had a scoop that Darth Talon was rejected for one of these series because Kathleen Kennedy was so against the character. Anyway, folks,
I can say the key art that they showed for the animation that they're talking about for this new show that's coming out, it's different than the Darth Talon that we knew from before.
Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, I tell you. All right, folks. Well, we're going to pay attention to Star Wars and see what it does, but I think it's got 3 strikes, and Lauren says some of those strikes are already on the, they're on the umpire's mark. So we'll pay attention. We'll see how it does, but Star Wars Celebration has not received much love, I would say, online. Star Wars Theory, on the other hand, totally different story. All right, folks. Like, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Get over there and join Lauren Connor, not only on our member-exclusive side of things here on the channel, the Genre Guys, but also on his YouTube channel, where he is going through the good stuff that was Star Wars once upon a time. Lauren, what are you on these days?
Still going through X-Wing Rogue Squadron, which is the first novel in the X-Wing series by Michael Stackpole.
Folks, get over there and subscribe today. Spend time with Lauren. He'll make you happy you came his way. All right, until the next time, we have the honor and the joy of spending time with you. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
I stand trembling in the sacred hallow of democracy, the briefing room, with the smell of history and body odor lingering and pressing upon my shoulders. My trusty pen is quivering like a knight's sword before...
What's your question?
Well, that's rather rude, not letting reporters ask their questions.
You were grandstanding.
Okay, whatever. If a Florida man broke into Disney riding a wild manatee, would Secret Service team up with Donald to stop him? Or just play it on TikTok for the views?
Trump or duck?
Dang it. Touche.